Hello and welcome to the 13th Annual Canadian Science Policy Conference, CSPC 2021. My name is Anjana Govindarajan and I'm joined today by Dr. Bettina Hamelin, President and CEO of Ontario Genomics. As President, Bettina leads the Ontario Genomics mission to catalyze and support the development of genomics-based technologies across multiple economic sectors for a genomic-driven bioeconomy. I once again welcome you, Bettina. Thank you very much for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Hi, Anjana. It's very nice to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak today, and I very much look forward to the conference. You mentioned the mission of Ontario Genomics, and COVID has really shown us that science and genomics are so essential, whether it's the development of the PCR technology to diagnose COVID, whether it's the vaccine. Genomics is that platform technologies that allows us to solve big problems. And the reality is that genomics can be applied across many economic sectors. And that is really what we're all about at Ontario Genomics. We work with researchers, with not-for-profit organizations, with small and large companies, with governments, to bring them together in public-public or public-private partnerships to leverage each other's expertise, funding, and come together at the right time to solve big problems. And my team at Ontario Genomics has deep technical and business expertise, has spent 20 years networking across these sectors to allow these partnerships to happen. And that's really what Ontario Genomics is all about.
Wonderful. Actually, I'm very curious to learn about engineering biology. Can you tell us about the role Ontario Genomics plays in catalyzing engineering biology in Canada?
Let me start by explaining what engineering biology is. Engineering biology is really about bringing engineering approaches to biology. And the goal is to create and use different tools that allow us to design and build functions in cells. And then the cells in turn produce things we want and need, whether that is a milk or egg protein, whether it is building blocks for biodegradable plastics, or silk fiber for fabrics. And what this really requires is to bring together a lot of different disciplines, engineers, biologists, genomics experts in data and data sciences, nanotechnology, fermentation, the list goes on. And all these disciplines really exist in Canada, but they work more often than not in silos. And so what we recognized in 2018 is there was really an unmet need to bring all these disciplines together. And that is when Ontario Genomics began holding what's now an internationally recognized conference and workshops. This led to the formation of a national engineering biology steering committee that has representation from all the different sectors and disciplines. And we brought it together really to lead the way towards a competitive and a collaborative engineering biology ecosystem in Canada. And the group then published a white paper, a position paper on engineering biology about the opportunity for Canada, and in particular, that we're really lagging behind other jurisdictions that have already invested and embarked in what's called the biorevolution, which really represents an economic opportunity of $2 to $4 trillion annually by 2030 to 2040. And we also highlighted in this paper that there's really time and scope for Canadian leadership if we act now.
Wonderful. Very interesting. Yeah. Can you tell us what you mean by technology platforms and how they are important to Canada's innovation ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, when we talk about technology platforms, what we're really talking about is a collection of tools and approaches, methods and methodologies that can be applied across various sectors, both in the public and in the private sector environment. Genomics is such an example, where DNA, we talked a little bit about it, DNA is present in all living things, and genomic innovation happens in health, but it also happens in agriculture and in the environment. And actually learning from the health sector has accelerated progress in agriculture and food and other sectors. Engineering biology is another technology platform. It's a great example of, applying engineering principles to biology to produce these cell systems that make things we need. And these products are so diverse, so that the opportunity for Canada really is to develop these platform technologies, and they don't only serve a single sector, but they serve multiple sectors.
Wow. Yeah, great. Being a biotechnologist, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Why did you prioritize cellular agriculture, and what role does Ontario Genomics play in supporting food and agriculture innovation?
So this is a really, really exciting area that's exploding around the world. But when we set out to write the engineering biology white paper a couple of years ago, we identified 3 areas of application for engineering biology where we have Canadian strength and where there's a global economic opportunity we don't want to miss out on. Cellular agriculture and food security is one of those 3 areas. And it's important to see it in the context of Canadian strength in agriculture and the role of genomics in agriculture. Genomics has really been a critical tool that has enhanced our outputs from agriculture. And Ontario Genomics has played a huge role in supporting that sector, in focusing on agriculture. And we have, in fact, invested more than $75 million to support genomics innovation in agriculture, together with our partners, Genome Canada and the province of Ontario. But we've also always been keeping our finger on the pulse of innovation and what goes on around the world. And that is where we've been learning that engineering biology can be applied in bringing innovation in our food sector and provide food security through cellular agriculture. So we formed a national food security subcommittee to our engineering biology steering committee, and that subcommittee has helped support and write a cellular agriculture white paper. And we've done this white paper, this work in partnership with the AAFC at the University of Fraser Valley, who has supported our engagement with many stakeholders to inform it, and also Dr. Mike von Massow from the University of Guelph, who has been doing an economic modeling to understand, how big of an economic opportunity this really is. So we're really excited about the upcoming panel at the CSPC conference, where we will be discussing the outcomes and the recommendations from this white paper, and also next steps. So as a teaser, I would say cellular agriculture is a very exciting opportunity. It's an opportunity that all ministers of agriculture, federally and provincially, should have on their radar. Also, it should be on the radar of our regulators and policymakers. And it really provides an opportunity to complement, not to cannibalize, but to complement our existing strength in agricultural export products by, really addressing the global need for more nutritious, protein-rich foods. The global protein demand is expected to grow by 60 to 98% by 2050. There's room for everyone. And, many countries have recognized that and have invested heavily, the US, Singapore, yes, Israel, the Netherlands, right? You would be very aware of this, Anjana. And they have invested billions of dollars. And even Canadian investors, venture investors, but also our pension funds are investing in cellular agriculture outside of Canada. So the question for us that becomes, and what we want to discuss with the audience and with the panel is, how do we keep the investment here in Canada? How do we grow our own expertise and our own industry? And how do we compete in the world, in the global market? So it's going to be very dynamic and exciting conversation.
Wow. Yeah, I learned about this during last year, November 2020 conversation on cellular agriculture from Ontario Genomics. Yeah, it's very interesting. So what vision does Ontario Genomics have for cellular agriculture, and why is this important for Canada?
So that's exactly what we want to explore with the panel, right? Is that's what we're going to be discussing. But again, you know, in a nutshell, Canada has a very strong agricultural and food sector. We've been the 5th largest exporter of agri-foods in the world. That is amazing. And now the world is changing. It's changing the way it produces foods. And Canada must be part of that. It must complement our existing traditional ag sector with these new innovations. Otherwise, we stand to lose market share rather than actually gain it because of the competition around the world. And in fact, that's been the recommendation of the agri-food economic strategy table, with which put out the vision that Canada is really prone to be a leader for digital and technology-based supply chains, and to stand out as the world's favorite protein provider. So the opportunity here is for Canada not, to simply maintain our current position, but rather to play a critical role, if not a central role, in reimagining resilient global food systems and sustainably feed the world in times of crisis and beyond. So I would say to the listeners, stay tuned for just how big of an opportunity cellular agriculture can be for Canada, as we will be disclosing and discussing that at the panel.
Yeah, this brings me to ask you, I'm very curious, can you tell us more about your panel, the perspectives that are included?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, this is a very transformational technology. It requires, input from all these different sectors and disciplines. So we brought together a panel that is very diverse. I can think of no one better than Dr. John Kelly to moderate the panel. John is currently the Deputy Minister for Ontario's Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. He's the perfect moderator for the discussion. He brings thoughtfulness, depth, and also his sector expertise, his long-standing sector expertise to the conversation. And so stay tuned for an insightful, dynamic conversation led by John with representatives from the Canadian government, from the venture capital community, and also from a global industry partner. And obviously, we're looking forward to engaging the audience in the panel because we want to have a dialogue.
Absolutely. I'm really waiting to attend the panel discussion. Yeah, I would like to ask one specific question from CSPC, and we are very curious about it. Since 2018, Ontario Genomics has been discussing engineering biology at CSPC panels. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest benefit and value Ontario Genomics has by discussing cellular agriculture at CSPC?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I would say that CSPC is the only and the biggest platform in Canada to engage scientists, policymakers, regulators, politicians, and members of the industry. And what we're discussing here are transformational technologies, and they require transformational collaborations across all of those individuals and all these sectors. And that's really the only way we can impact the Canadian economy through innovation. And COVID has taught us that innovation gets us out of crises. So we hope that policymakers will continue to learn about the opportunities and use this knowledge to really inform imminent and future partnerships, incentivization, and investment decisions. So CSPCs providing an opportunity to really have these broad policy stakeholder audiences and conversation is what's been so beneficial to Ontario Genomics and to our engineering biology community.
Yeah, I'm very happy to hear this from you, Bettina. Yeah, that brings us to the end of this interview. Thank you, Bettina, for this insightful discussion. We are glad to have you back at the conference this year.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing all of you at our panel discussion.